So Charlie,
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you.
First interview as a Spotify artist.
Yeah.
Second guess, your first single
Yeah.
has just been released today.
Yep.
How do you feel?
It's been good. I was very nervous in the lead up to it, but I feel like after hearing some of the responses from people, it's much more excited
Good.
and like enjoying it so far.
Good. You know, I mean, I loved it when I heard it, and I know everyone else who I've shown it to enjoys it as well.
Thank you.
So we'll come back to it. We'll come back to the single, but first I want to focus on you.
Okay.
So obviously you've been in the school since year 7. I've always known you as this incredible guitarist.
Thank you.
Obviously it wasn't until sort of you started sixth form that I knew about your singing and how well you could sing. So I guess for you, at what point did you realise you could sing, or at what point, or if you always knew, at what point did you decide to, I want to show this to people?
So I always wanted to kind of to sing, and for that to be something I could use, especially as a tool when songwriting, and then to develop that as something to obviously then perform in front of people and do it. It was year 11 when I kind of first was like, I'll actually try and record my own vocals on my like year 11 composition or for GCSE or something, and it really wasn't very good. But I've been practicing. I've had loads of support from family, girlfriend, friends and just asking advice on how to do it. Pretty much, and hopefully improved in the singing.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I first heard you, and I know when Mr. Judson first heard you, we were just like, whoa, this guy's good.
Thank you so
and
much.
even like, not even just your vocals, I first heard you sing really from an original that you wrote, just a little snippet of one. And is that also something that you've sort of always liked doing? Have you always been songwriting, or was it a recent thing?
I've always had ideas, and it wasn't until I finished my first song, which was Bleed My Heart Out. It wasn't until then when I kind of posted a little clip of me singing it online, and then the response from that was like, oh, maybe then I'll actually finish this song.
Yeah.
Because I was too nervous to post a cover of something because people can compare it to something else.
Yeah, sure.
So that was the kind of approach I took to doing that.
Good way to do it, actually. It's good thinking. But I mean, when I first heard it was a little 30-second phone video that you did.
Yeah.
That Mr. Judson showed me, and I was like, well, we've got something here. And it's always nice. It's obviously it's nice to hear anyone who can sing, but when it's a shock, and when you hear someone who you haven't heard really sing before, it's like, well, especially someone who's gone through the school all this time, and yeah, it's just refreshing to hear.
Thank you so much.
New artists such as yourself. But that's what brings me onto music. And have you got who are your main inspirations in music? If you look at everyone out there.
So, in terms of playing guitar, I'm always listening to John Mayer and kind of jamming along to his own songs. If I'm listening to his music, then it's kind of hard for me not to pick up my guitar and try and play along when I'm at home. In terms of music, when like writing songs, I think when I was younger, I always listened to Ed Sheeran. I wouldn't say he's one of my main inspirations, but I think if I hadn't listened to him, then I wouldn't be wanting to write my own songs, and I wouldn't write them in the kind of style that I do now. More modern influences would be, not that Ed Sheeran isn't modern, but would be the likes of probably James Bay or James Arthur, kind of taking from their kind of genres as well.
Yeah, I can definitely see the similarities between James Bay especially, because I remember watching an interview that he did, and he always said that the main inspiration for him when he picked up a guitar was obviously it's a different era, but he heard Layla by Derek and the Dominoes, but Eric Clapton, and he heard that for the first time, and he was like, I'm buying a guitar, I'm doing that, I'm learning it, I'm singing.
Yeah.
And that's what set him off, and then obviously he's always a big fan of John Mayer and says how good he is. So yeah, no, I can definitely see that in you.
Thank you. Yeah.
But yeah, I for all those people that you mentioned, I think for most new artists, they're all the sort of people that they look to, because obviously James Arthur had that. I remember watching him on the X Factor first time,
Yeah.
and his first performance, he did a song by Talisa.
Yeah, it was it Young?
Yeah, Young, and the style he did it in, he completely did it in his own style, and that was the first time I remember sort of on TV seeing new people come on and being like, I want to be my own artist.
Yeah.
And it's nice that you can draw from other people, but then also feed it into your own style.
Yeah.
So that's good. But so what about coming back to school? How about was there anyone who influenced your decisions to sort of put yourself out there? Was there any main push from either external or in school, whoever? Was there?
So when it came to second guess, I wrote this in lockdown, the first lockdown we had ages ago, and then that was kind of pushed, and it was friends at school. So Riley at school, he produced the song.
Oh, cool.
And then from that, when he was working on it, it was something that Sir had asked him to do for the school album. So him working on that, he then really liked the song, so we'd communicate more, and as it kind of developed to like, we can release this.
Yeah.
So I was in communication with Riley and a few of his friends, and we kind of organised it, set out a big plan. So was planned it for a few months for this song, and then definitely kick-starting it. Riley, if he hadn't put in the work he did, then we wouldn't have been able to have the song out today. So
no, that's good. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Riley, because I remember when Sir told me about it, Mr. Justin told me about it, he mentioned that Riley was working with you on it, and obviously the songwriting is incredible, and the instrumentation and everything about it, and I'll come on to that later, but and I'll come to production later, but one thing I did notice was the production and how high quality it was.
His standard is very high.
So
it's very good.
Yeah, it was nice to hear that it wasn't just, I'm going to play guitar, I'm going to sing. It was like a proper, let's put some planning into this, let's make this properly good.
I remember when he sent me the first kind of draft, the first kind of track, it was probably like the fourth mix he'd done. It was still just like piano and guitar, not all of the new bits that were added. And I remember listening to that probably about 5 or 6 times before I was like, this actually sounds like a proper song.
Yeah. No, that's one thing I noticed about the production and also the performance and the songwriting. It doesn't sound like a school kid writing this. It sounds like an artist.
Oh, thanks so much.
And that's really refreshing to see. But so let's come on to the song. So Second Guess is its name. It's out on all platforms.
All platforms, all major streaming platforms.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you wrote it and recorded it in lockdown. Wrote it in lockdown.
So I wrote it in lockdown, and I recorded a really, really rough demo on my MacBook.
Okay.
And I was using the microphone from my headphones, and I recorded my vocals on that. I recorded my guitar. I tried to mix it the best I could on GarageBand, and I'll show you. It's completely different to what it sounds like now.
That's how all the good songs start.
And that was played to Riley, and then what was the question again?
Well, I didn't actually really get on to the question, but so it was written in lockdown, and just going back to that time where obviously we weren't in school and we were at home, and it obviously gave you this chance to write music and record music.
Yep.
In that time, was there anything that you really look back on, sort of away from music slightly, was there anything you look back on and thought that you took for granted, back when the world was normal, as it were?
Oh, 100%. Especially considering how long we've been in this situation, the idea you can't go and see family. It's like my grandparents, I'd see them often, but I now wish how much more I could have seen them, how much I miss them now, and things like that. And other family members, and just generally seeing friends, especially with being in year 13, like it's your last year of school, and
of course.
Yeah, it's kind of been a rough one, but
no, it has. I know for me, I mean, you've got all the joke ones. You've got like, people are saying, "Oh, we can take haircuts for granted," and of course, we
desperately in need of a haircut.
Yes,
I am. You're all right.
No, I'm in need of one. But another thing that I've thought of in this time was thinking about how rushed everyone was. Like before lockdown was a thing, obviously we had all this time to ourselves to just sit and think and write music or whatever. And it just makes me think that before that, everyone was just trying to do everything so fast, I think. And it's just helped me realise there's time. Like, this lockdown it's felt like a long time.
Yes.
It's felt like a lot longer than it has done. That's because we've slowed down because we've had to. But so I think that's one thing I'm going to take into it, is just slow down a little bit. Like, not everything has to be rushed, not everything has to be 100 miles an hour. Like, we can just slow down, take our time and think about things. Exactly. And it's obviously worked out for you.
I mean, yeah, the song was wrote probably a year ago now. I probably wrote the chorus.
So it's a year in the making.
So,
and obviously it's reaped the benefits of it.
Yeah, it's come a long way, I reckon. So
yeah. No, so moving into back to the single, were there any main inspirations for the song?
I know instrumentally, I was listening. I remember distinctly on the day I was listening to "Stay" by Post Malone,
right.
And I don't know why I was obsessed with that song for a good few days, and I couldn't stop listening to it. And I was playing the chords over, and I took some of the chords. It's not obviously not a direct copy.
Yeah.
Took some of the chords, put the capo on a fret, and then within the next hour I wrote the chorus.
Right.
Which then I recorded the video of it, put it on Instagram, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then that had a good response. So I was like, oh, I can move forward with this. But yeah, definitely Post Malone. For some reason, that song always comes back to me whenever I think of like what was inspiring me to write it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's nice. It's cool that, because it's definitely not a Post Malone style song.
No.
But it's interesting to hear how, like, you can find inspiration from anywhere really. It doesn't matter what genre. It doesn't matter what artist.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like I heard that song and then I was like, oh, I really like this song. And then it just takes you to another idea that you never thought. Because that's one of his more acoustic songs.
Yeah.
Anyway, so obviously that kind of vibe, I was drawn into that, but just came out of nowhere, really.
Good. But I loved it. Fantastic song. What I like about it is the dimension it has in it and the layers to it. So it's not just straight up acoustic. It's not. I'm assuming you first wrote it on guitar.
Yes. Yeah.
Being a guitar player, I'm assuming. But there's so many instrumental parts to it. Obviously, you've got guitars, you've got some synths in there, you've got pianos, you've got drums, everything going on in there.
Yeah.
Was it just? Did you play everything? Was there other people involved?
So again, come back to Riley.
Yeah.
He did a really good job on the instrumentation behind the song. I wrote the structure and all the instrumentation behind it, so that was kind of the outline of the picture, and he really developed it and added what he needed. We'd send back ideas back and forwards, but yeah, so it would be like 1 week it would be like, I've added this drum pattern, and he'd send me the 10-second clip of the drum pattern.
Okay.
And then it'd be like, oh, by the way, I've added this Rhodes keyboard and stuff like that. And then altogether it kind of developed. Some bits taken out, some bits came back in.
Yeah.
But we ended up with a really good final picture, I think. Good.
Yeah, no, that's the first thing that drew me to it was the layers to it and the dynamics of the song. As people say that a song really stands on its own. If a song can stand on its own instrumentally, that's when you know it's a really good song. And yours definitely can do that because you've got those dynamics, because you work through you got the little vinyl crackle at the start for the intro, and then you go through it, and you've got the verse instrumentation, then it builds and then drops off again and then builds again, and so all these dynamics of the song, you can really tell the parts from each other.
They're quite distinct.
Yeah.
And
that's always seen as a really good basis of a really good song.
So, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's nice to know that you took this seriously and it was done properly, and obviously I loved it. So
thank you.
So what about the recording process? How did you record it? Where did you record it?
So we recorded it in school.
Recorded in school.
In literally in here. Yeah. The guitar, we did that. I played Sir's acoustic guitar, and we recorded that in a free period. Didn't take very long. to be fair. And then that was, I think it was then a couple of weeks actually until we recorded the vocals. But once we had those two stems, then it was just like, boom, like everything kind of just laid up afterwards.
Nice.
We recorded the vocals in school as well.
Cool.
Yeah, some funny like outtakes.
Right, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There always are. But it's cool that you did it in school. It's cool that it's obviously it's your song and it's completely your song, but it's nice that you've been able to use the school to be a big factor in it, because obviously you wrote it in school, you worked with your schoolmates to produce it, and it's all internal, and you recorded it here and you use the studio and the equipment that we have here, which is really nice to hear.
Having the equipment here was definitely like the catalyst that actually led for the song to be developed, because if we hadn't been able to record those things in school, it would have taken a lot more time, and Riley wouldn't have been able to then take even just as simple as the guitar and the vocals. He wouldn't have been able to then take that home and develop it like he did. So
that's part of the reason why we decided to push this to happen. Like it's giving people like you the opportunity to use your talents and really bolster them, and then use that to propel yourself as an artist, which you've done, which is it's really nice to see. It's really humbling and refreshing to see. So it's nice to know about that and to hear about that. So it's good. But so obviously you said Riley produced it.
Yeah.
I'm guessing he probably did most of it at home, but obviously you'd have worked with him here and you'd have worked together with it. So anything about the production phase that you enjoyed, something that was new to you?
I think the thing I definitely enjoyed was just hearing the difference from each kind of track that was sent to me in like the new mixes. In terms of my input on the production, in terms of what I added, was actually quite minimal, because I obviously provided the lyrics to the song and the guitar, and then it was just giving my opinion on what Riley did, and he did a really good job with it. So just the whole process was really fun, and then in the build up to releasing it, then that became a bit more like stressful.
Yeah, I'm sure, because I know whenever I do anything creative, I'm a massive perfectionist. Like I want it to be perfect. I want everything. If there's anything small that's wrong, I'm gonna hate what I've done. I'm gonna hate my work. So I don't know if you're like that, but I'm sure you spent a long time to get it to how you wanted it, because it wasn't just a case of here's a mix, here's another mix, we've got these instruments in, let's master it and get it out. Like you didn't rush it, took your time with it, and got it to a point where you were really happy with it, I'm assuming. And so obviously you said it took a year, which is a considerable time for a single, which is good that you spent that time on it, because it means that you wanted to get it right. And so I'm sure at the end it was quite stressful just to get it out there, because you were probably so desperate to get it out, but you're like, let's hold off, let's just take our time on it and make sure it's right.
So there was quite a few weeks in the build up to the release, a lot of Instagram posts and a lot of weird promotion.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely a stepping stone of your life as a musician, and it's an incredible starting place to have this single. And it's like, one thing I've noticed about it is everything's really to a really high standard. Like obviously the songwriting's fantastic, instrumentation's fantastic, the production is like, it's a really well thought out name and structure, and even the album art, everything down to everything is really high quality, and like you've really thought it through. So it's really good. Did you have anyone else influence you on that?
So the artwork was done by one of my good friends, Alfie.
Okay.
We came up with the idea over just a cool one night, and it was within the hour. He's a really talented graphics design artist, and within the hour we had kind of the basic of what it was going to be. Nice. And then the next night I had pretty much the final artwork.
Nice.
Which was Cool. I'm
Yeah,
happy with how it
nice
turned
to
out.
keep it internal and within your friends and people you trust. And
Yeah.
yeah, nice. So let's fast forward 10 years into the future, wherever your life may be, professional artist, whatever. If a film was made about your music career, and this is far into the future, but which actor, who's playing you in your film?
Who's playing me in my film? I've never thought about that ever. God.
Anyone
based on
first?
me right now.
Based on you, who would you want to play you as in a film of your career?
Who would I want to play me? I'd want Tom Holland to play me because I feel like he's better looking than I am. So
he's a great actor.
And he's a very good actor.
And he's British, so
yeah.
No,
that'd be cool. That'd be cool. I've never thought about that ever. So it's an interesting question. Good question.
There we go. Cool. So looking forward, bringing all this to a close. What does the future hold for you? Where do you see yourself going? Is it are you releasing more singles, an EP, album? What do you see?
So hopefully releasing another single around summertime.
Cool.
Another song I wrote called October, which is a more upbeat kind of summer vibe. So hopefully it will be quite successful within that season.
Yeah, of course.
In terms of career, going into uni in September. And then wherever that follows, whether that is working as an artist, but at the same time, where I love making music and I love playing music, I also have great interest in the industry behind it as well. And working within the industry is something that really interests me, whether that be as a manager or working in distribution or just in a record label or anything. So if I end up somewhere doing something like that, then I'm happy.
Something in music.
Something in music.
Anything in music.
Some kind of thing in music, yeah.
Good. No, well, whatever you decide to do, you've definitely got the ability and the attributes to be able to pursue whichever you want in that field. So no, it's nice that you want to stick to music and that it is your main passion.
Definitely. Yeah.
It drives you forward. But anyway, Charlie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
This was fun. Me.
This is very cool.
This was fun. And yeah, it's actually really refreshing. It's nice to be able to, after all this time, to sit down and just chat about what you've been up to, and obviously everything that's been released and your thought process behind it. So it's really nice to be able to have that opportunity. But so Second Guess out now
on all platforms.
Go stream it.
Go stream it on repeat.
On repeat. Nice one. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you so much.
Count me again. After all this on with more that won't pretend. Don't drown in a glass half empty, 'cause you think you're